came from near and far, so we deeply appreciate that. As we go around, and as everybody, please feel free, don't feel obligated, but if somebody would like to, during the course of this morning, stand up and say a couple of words, we would certainly be greatly appreciated. I'll go ahead and kick it off and start with saying that oftentimes parents don't think that they've really imparted lessons on their children, or they wonder what kind of lessons did we really impart. So, you know, my parents, and my dad specifically, as you'll all know him, he said, keep it short and sweet. So I will do that. So one of the things that, as I have, as many of you know, I've traveled extensively around the world, and I've come to realize how fortunate we all are sitting here in this room, but also specifically how wonderful my parents have been. So they've always given unconditional love and support, and they've always been there for us. And as I get older, and I like to think I'm getting wiser, the more wisdom I receive, the more I realize how truly wonderful they are, and I'm very grateful. So please join me in thanking two wonderful parents.
Yeah.
Project.
Eric?
All right, well, that's going to be a tough act to follow. And Richard, thank you very much for the wonderful prelude. So, I think, Richard, you mentioned that they met at McDonald's, got married quickly, and they're just back from Las Vegas. And what I think a lot of you might not realize is that my dad, being the romantic that he is, on their honeymoon, decided that it would be smart to get on a couple of pack mules and go on down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. But what you don't know about this particular trip is that on the way down, my mom, on her mule, it kind of stumbled, and she said, hey, that's once. And down they went a little bit further, and it stumbled again, and she said, hey, that's twice. And one more time, the mule stumbled, and Mom said, that's 3 times, and she pulled a gun out and shot the mule. Now, my dad, being the empathetic man that he is, started to protest to my mother, and she simply said, that's once. And so here we are 50 years later. So, well done, Mom. I had the privilege of picking Jason up in Brewster yesterday, and we had a chance to drive back to the valley, or truly I think come home, at least for me. And it always brings back a lot of memories, and thankfully a lot of great memories. And you look at my parents, as my mom said, having been here for 37 years, you all collectively being such a great part of their lives is truly wonderful. And as Jason just alluded to, as you get, I'm not going to call myself more mature, but more older, you start to reflect a little bit and think about things. And as Mom and Dad, you well know, you've got 2 grandkids that are in high school, and you have 2 sons that still act like they're in high school at times. But I guess what kind of made me start thinking about things is you start to wonder, are you really kind of a product of your environment, and what kind of environment were you brought up in, and what sort of house were you in? And in today's news, we all have friends, we hear everything, but I can truly say, Mom and Dad, that I don't remember one time, did I ever remember you being angry with each other, or showing that you're mad at each other, and being able to grow up in that kind of environment, I think meant a lot, to all of us. And kind of thinking about, 3 things are, I guess, the way you are and the way that you live your lives. I call it values, is what it is. You don't realize it at the time. I think the first thing that you really taught me and Jason and I is inspect what you expect. I think that both of you have, certainly very high standards for yourselves, but you never expected anything out of each other. I think there's a lot to be said for that, because it gives you both the space that you need, but also proves that you're better together. because of that. The second one, I think that's also very important. I think the way, I think about characterizing this. I asked my dad one time, and I said to him, what does it take, Dad? A lot of years in marriage. And he says, I just don't listen. Okay. So you take that at face value. And those of you that know my dad know that he likes to needle people to get under their skin a little bit or make them feel a little bit uncomfortable. And anytime we were in that situation, or Mom, even if it was directed at you, you would just say, I just ignore him. Or you would counsel somebody else, just ignore him. And as I think about that, I think what that really is, it's forgiveness.
Sure.
And the old adage of, if you choose not to forgive somebody, and certainly 50 years, you've got to have some forgiveness, but if you choose not to forgive somebody, it's as if you're drinking poison and you think somehow the other person's going to be affected.
Right.
But the part about those quick, smart aleck responses, I think what it taught me is that it's about forgiveness in real time. Right? You forgive quickly and you move on. So I appreciate that. And then I think that the third and final piece of it, or the third thing that I've been thinking about a little bit is, as you talk, I think Jason and I and everybody that's been around my parents, the way I would describe it is you can't drive your car down the road looking in the rearview mirror, right? And all that really is saying, if something's happened, let it go, move on. And it's also, I think, centered around both of your incredible sense of optimism that you have. And my sense is, and I feel that maybe this is something that you both had, certainly previous to that fateful day at McDonald's, right? But it's also something that I think we've all watched and seen that you've truly centered your life around. And that feeling of hope and optimism is one I think that we all share, and impressive to get through to 50 years. So I'm going to stop with that. It's kind of hard to, I think, truly sum up 50 years, but I guess the way that I would say it is, they met at McDonald's, my mom shot a donkey, and they lived happily ever after.